Mystery anime are annoyingly hard to get right, but psychic detective Yakumo does get it right and tells you a thrilling tale of a boy shunted by society who learns to turn his supposed cursed luck into something that will change his life for the better. So let's get started. Ozawa Haruka joins the college's film club to get the help of Seiru Yakumo, known for his ability to communicate with spirits. She tells him about a disturbing incident where her friend Miki was possessed after a test of courage in the old school building, after which she had to be hospitalized and another friend committed suicide. Yakumo initially charges her 25,000 yen for his services, but when he reveals knowledge of her deceased twin sister, Haruka agrees to his help. They visit Miki, where he confirms that the ghosts of dead girls who are probably victims of past incidents in the old building are possessing her. Later, Professor Takiaka informs them about another friend's suicide, and Yakumo, walking Haruka home, dismisses the suggestion of a curse, suspecting they are targeted by a human. He goes to investigate the old school building where they find evidence linked to Takiaka. He becomes even more suspicious after obtaining a cup used by Takiaka for DNA analysis, revealing a match to female belongings found in the building. Takiaka surprisingly kidnaps Haruka, but Yakumo, helped by the ghost of Ayaka, rescues her, revealing his ability to communicate with spirits through his red eye before Takiaka hurriedly escapes, setting fire to the school building, but is arrested by Officer Goto. Trapped on the roof, Yakumo deduces that Haruka's motive behind entering the building was guilt over her sister, Ayaka's death, so Haruka admits she was jealous towards Ayaka, which led to her tragic accident. Yakumo allows her to communicate with Ayaka and helps the sisters make up with each other. Meanwhile, a red-eye man orders Dr. Aichi to agree to what he says if he wants his daughter to be reborn. After taking care of the spirits inside Miki's body, Haruka reflects on the fact that she's talking to a spirit while Yakumo says he hates forced exorcisms. She requests an extension to settle the 25,000 yen fee, but he tells her that Miki's father has already fulfilled the payment, which ends their agreement. During her part-time job, Haruka comes across Yuri, a businessman, and his assistant Kunamatsu, who discuss a cursed fox shrine project that is made to combine the city's two shrines. Visiting the shrine herself, Haruka is surprised by a scary fox mask before she meets a man named Ishin who introduces himself as Yakumo's uncle. She notices his red eye and asks if he shares Yakumo's ability to see spirits, but Ishin explains that it's only a contact lens to be similar to him before she meets Yakumo's deaf cousin. While following Yakumo, Haruka sees him talking to another girl, after which she returns to the fox shrine and encounters Irene near the statue. Suddenly, the lights start breaking down, and Yakumo saves her from danger, saying it was only due to human interference rather than any spirits. Pointing out a nearby shed, Yakumo reveals Kunamatsu, who confesses that Eri wanted to escape with Kumiko, which his parents disapproved of, and some miscommunication led to him waiting at the wrong shrine, which resulted in her death from tuberculosis after marrying another man. Yakumo notes that Kumiko's spirit is still there, wearing the mask. After Eri and Kumiko's spirit make up with each other, Yakumo tells Haruka about how his investigation was requested by Kimi, Kumiko's granddaughter. A journalist named Makoto hands Goto a photograph showing the spirit of a young boy in a garage. Unable to locate Yakumo, Goto meets Haruka instead before he appears, asking about their visit. Haruka recounts an incident where she, along with her assistant manager Tetsuya, traveled through a tunnel filled with malevolent spirits, but Tetsuya remained calm. She asks Yakumo to investigate if any spirits have attached themselves to them, which he agrees to before Goto shows him the photograph of the spirit and explained that it was captured in a garage belonging to Toru, a chop shop owner mixed up in many criminal activities. Shockingly, the ghost in the image is revealed to be a boy who vanished 2 months ago. At the garage, they're shocked to find the boy's lifeless body, so Hado conducts an autopsy, which shows that the boy was fatally struck by a vehicle, but probably died after being buried alive. Haruka goes with Tetsuya to rid him of any remaining spirits, yet Yakumo finds Tetsuya's reaction to the earlier photograph weird, considering how he apparently isn't scared of ghosts. Reporting his observations to Goto, Yakumo's suspicions are confirmed and Toru is arrested, with Tetsuya involved as the driver responsible for the boy's death and burying him alive. As Haruka's in the car, the boy's spirit suddenly possesses Tetsuya, so Goto and Yakumo go after them, and despite asking him to stop, the boy flatly refuses to leave Tetsuya's body. They approach a dark tunnel, and Goto manages to slow down the car before the boy eventually surrender. But as they slowly get near the tunnel, he's suddenly swallowed by the spirits, leaving Yakumo frustrated by not being able to save him and being limited to only communicating with the spirits. Outside the tunnel, Haruka offers her respects alongside Isshin and Nao, before Isshin reveals the meaning behind Yakumo's name, symbolizing overlapping clouds. He says he hopes Yakumo will one day overcome the problems he faces because of his red eye, to which Haruka says she wants to help him too. As the streak of high school girls' murders continue, Goto is reassigned to the Unsolved Crimes Unit, along with his new subordinate, Yutaru. A call from the chief of police urgently requests Goto's help in saving his daughter, while Haruka continues her constant visits to Yakumo, much to his irritation. He thinks about the reactions people have to his red eye, either fear or a desire to take advantage of its power, before Goto and Yutaru ask for this help, while Haruka secretly investigates a request from her friend Mayuko. Goto remembers an incident from 5 days ago in which Makoto was discovered unconscious beside Takashi, a former doctor-turned-drug dealer, whose death was blamed on a heart attack, possibly due to his drug experiments. Meanwhile, Haruka goes to the riverbank and sees a gravestone for a girl named Ayaka. Spotting Ayaka's ghost in the river, asking to be ended. Meanwhile, Yakumo discovers that Makoto is possessed by Takashi's spirit, driven by an intense will to survive, which means that suicide is not an apparent cause of death. They meet Hata for information on Takashi, with only a notebook, keys, and a photo of Ayaka before meeting with Dr. Aichi, a doctor who attended Azusa during his Azusa's son, Yakumo's birth. Dr. Aichi reveals how Azusa tried to end Yakumo's life 10 years ago, leaving behind only a necklace torn from her neck. After learning of his mother's fear of his red eye at birth, Yakumo suddenly leaves and later tries to throw away the necklace by the riverbank. But Haruka steps in, urging Yakumo to not to bear all his burdens alone before embracing him. After visiting Ayaka's gravesite by the riverbank, Yakumo firmly tells Haruka to not do something this risky in the future, after which they return to Aichi's place, where Aichi tells them that Takashi was not only a close family friend, but also his junior during medical school. Ayaka, Aichi's daughter, lost her life in a sudden river flood, so Yakumo questions his intentions, questioning why he wants to bring her back to life, to which Aichi defends his love for her. While looking for the keys, Yutaru discovers a bag full of cash, and Goto and Yakumo find the missing girl inside a floodgate maintenance room. Although Takashi is identified as the culprit behind the series of murders and kidnappings, Hata shows Goto and Yakumo pictures of the victims, noting their calm expressions despite drowning. They spot a photo with the red-eyed man as Goto realizes Aichi's involvement. Haruka is incapacitated by one of Aichi's lackeys, so Yakumo and Goto rush to another floodgate as ordered, where they catch Aichi throwing Haruka over the railing. Despite Goto's efforts, Haruka falls into the river but is narrowly rescued by Yakumo. Later, they transport Aichi and the possessed Hijikata to Aichi's clinic, where he admits that the red-eyed man told him that if a girl of Ayaka's age died, she could take over the body. However, Yakumo's conclusion from the photos, along with what Haruka tells them, makes them realize that with each attempt to revive her, Aichi accidentally forces his daughter to die repeatedly, as she only wants to end her suffering. As they pay their respects at Ayaka's grave, Yakumo spots the red-eyed man, his father, across the river. Haruka's friends talk about her love life, telling her to dress more attractively to find a boyfriend, teasing her about Yakumo even though she denies having romantic feelings for him. She brings Yakumo a case involving a haunted apartment at the man's request, so they decide to investigate the real estate agency that leased the apartment at an unusually low price, and the agent reveals that the previous tenant, Kimiko, died of respiratory illness and has haunted the place since. They interview one of Kimiko's former colleagues, who describes her as overly serious, avoiding dressing up or wearing makeup, and in the apartment, they discover a hidden envelope behind a mirror before Kimiko's ghost instructs them to burn it without looking. Returning to the temple, they prepare a pyre, but Haruka opens the envelope out of curiosity, finding a photo of Kimiko dressed elegantly. She realizes she dressed up for her own sake, not others, and apologizes to Kimiko's ghost, who then reveals herself and encourages Haruka to do her best before burning the photo. Later, Yakumo compliments Nao on her new cardigan, having initially ignored it, so Haruka playfully tickles him, and starts laughing at them with Nao. Haruka invites Yakumo to watch her music club performance, suggesting he can drop by if he's bored while Yakumo's father gets ready to put his plan in motion. Makoto explores a creepy mansion and discovers a collapsed girl with hidden motives behind her distress. The case comes to Yakumo's attention, knowing the mansion's dark history as the site of the Nanis murders, where a family was brutally killed 15 years ago, with their daughter Miyuki mysteriously vanishing. He agrees to help and they watch a video from Makoto, filmed by reporter Yukiko, but it disturbs him and he leaves suddenly without explanation. He later apologizes to Haruka for missing her concert and takes the Shinkansen, leaving both Haruka and Makoto wondering where he's gone. Goto discusses the case with his boss, Captain Miyagawa, who remembers her scary experience at the Nanis mansion during the murders. She questions if their attacker was truly human or something different, so Goto assures her that they'll catch Takeda, the main suspect. They locate Yukiko, and upon visiting the Nanis mansion, he decides to head in alone due to Yuteru's hesitance, but he's attacked and kidnapped by one of Yakumo's father's partners. Yuteru guiltily blames himself for not doing anything, while Miyagawa angrily reminds him of his responsibility, especially since Goto's wife, Itsuko, trusted him with her husband's safety. Miyagawa leaves, warning him of the consequences if anything happens to Goto, while Yakumo heads into the Nanis mansion and gets attacked by the same woman, as well, who seductively says she loves him so much that it makes her want to break him before literally shocking him. The police hurriedly chase Takeda, the primary suspect in the Nanis murders, in an alleyway while Makoto, Yuteru, and Haruka gather at the temple and meet with Isshin. Watching the video clip, Isshin is stunned to recognize the ghost as Azusa, his sister and Yakumo's mother. Yuteru timidly says they should involving the police, but Haruka disagrees with this, so he rushes out but is followed by Makoto, who manages to calm him down. Meanwhile, Haruka visits Yakumo's former middle school teacher, Idni's grave with the guilt over her death and Yakumo's past struggles. They meet up at the house, where Haruka reveals a crucial clue and realizes the footage isn't from the Nanis mansion, but entirely another location, so both Yuteru and Makoto confirm that the girl posing as Yukiko used a false identity, making them doubt the information she provided. Isshin shows them a letter from Kiko, Haruka's mother, to Azusa, remembering how she was once kidnapped and rescued by Kiko, both pregnant at the time with Haruka and Yakumo. Isshin sees this as a twist of fate connecting them, and upon opening the letter, they're shocked to learn that Azusa's fiancé was Takeda, the murderer. After returning Haruka home, Yuteru requests files on Takeda to find Goto from Miyagawa, who agrees to meet him in the 4th floor bathroom, where she hands over the information he needs. Meanwhile, the attacker appears again to kidnap Haruka, but Takeda intervenes while being chased by the entire police force, forcing the attacker to retreat, after which he vows to protect Yakumo, who is currently bound to a chair. Haruka wakes up to a warning from a man named Takeda, informing her that Yakumo is in Nagano, and warning her about potential threats, but she quickly leaves for Nagano by train while Yuteru and Makoto visit Hata, who uses facial reconstruction software to recreate the missing nanny's girl, Miyuki's face. Shocked, they realize Miyuki is actually Yukiko and has connections to Yakumo's father before they interview her former teacher and deduce that there is a hidden room in the mansion. They rescue Goto, who reveals the plan to kill Haruka in front of Yakumo and explains that Takeda's ghost informed him after they ask how he knows this. They rush to Nagano, where Keiko has driven Haruka to Yakumo's old house, where she finds a worn-out Yakumo, but they manage to escape from the house. However, they are stopped by Miyuki, who aims a crossbow at them. Yakumo spots Goto behind her and buys time by questioning the true culprit behind the nanny murders, so Miyuki confesses that she was responsible, manipulated by her father and grandfather's abuse, and encouraged by Yakumo's father to do it. Goto tries to restrain her, but Yakumo's father stops them from escaping and harm Goto again. But before Miyuki can harm Haruka, Azusa's ghost possesses her, and Goto reveals what Takeda had told to him in the torture room. 15 years ago, Takeda proposed to Azusa, but when he became the prime suspect in the nanny murders, and Yakumo's father warned her of Yakumo's potential for violence, Azusa, driven by fear, tried to kill her own son. Yakumo happily realizes that his mother never truly hated him and was manipulated before Miyuki regains control and shoots a gas pipe, allowing them to escape. As they bid farewell to the spirits of Azusa and Takeda, Azusa thanks Haruka for giving her courage and delivers a secret message to Yakumo. Later, Goto makes up with Atsuko, while Yakumo casually attends Haruka's recital. Makoto discovers reports of a ghost haunting the local hospital and runs into Isshin, looking for treatment for a constant headache. She shares what she found with Yakumo, who agrees to look into the matter as she notices a change in him, finding him more approachable now. But Haruka remains doubtful. Yakumo consults with Hata, Goto, and Yutaru before she shows him a photo of his father, and Yutaru suspects his father may be similar to Kida, a ghost, while Isshin receives a shocking diagnosis of a terminal brain disease with only 6 months left to live. Miyuki gets arrested by the police, and Miyagawa decides to interrogate her before the higher-ups intervene, and Isshin runs into Yoshiko, a girl with a similar terminal illness, and offers her encouragement. He introduces her to No, urging them to be friends with each other. Haruka visits Yakumo in the clubroom, where he tells Yutaru about his suspicions related to his father possibly being a ghost. They visit the temple, where Isshin shares a package from Kiko, containing photos of Yakumo as a baby and moments from Haruka's sister's life. Later, he discloses his illness to Yakumo, urging him to keep it a secret, and seeing that he's shocked, Isshin advises him to live life to the fullest. Meanwhile, Goto and Yutaru interrogate Miyuki, who reveals a plot to kill Isshin. Yakumo is shocked by Isshin's illness, and he starts behaving weirdly during their investigation at the hospital. With their phones off, Goto and Yutaru aren't able to reach them and rush back to the temple, where they find Isshin, who learns of the plot against him. Isshin asks Goto to take care of Neo if anything happens to him, but when Yakumo's father suddenly arrives, Isshin suddenly makes Goto collapse to face him alone. He admits to once hating him for the pain he made Azusa and Yakumo suffer through, but those feelings have since faded. He calmly assures Yakumo's father that Yakumo won't be consumed by darkness before getting fatally stabbed. Meanwhile, Yakumo sees the ghost, who surprises him by apologizing to frightened patients before they receive a call from Yutaru about the stabbing. Isshin is rushed to the hospital, where the doctor informs them that he suffered severe damage, because of which his brain's activity has completely ceased. Goto angrily tells the doctor to redo the operation, but Yakumo calmly asks him to stop, after which Goto keeps his promise to Isshin and takes Nao home, leaving Yakumo to watch over his uncle. The lead investigator of the Nanis murders puts a gag order on any information related to the crime, stopping the media from covering Isshin's stabbing and Miyuki's confession. Despite Goto wanting to search the temple for clues about Yakumo's father, they aren't able to find anything. Later, Yakumo visits Miyuki in her cell, initially greeted warmly before he accidentally injures her. Following Miyagawa's orders, Goto attends to Nao, while Haruka offers Yakumo Isshin's red contact lens that he accepts and thanks her for. Isshin is listed as an organ donor, but Yakumo doesn't formally agree to this because he hasn't seen his ghost yet. However, he does see the ghost girl again, and they trace it back to Yoshiko's room before the doctor explains that unless Yoshiko gets a transplant within 6 months, she'll die, which makes Yakumo's anger grow, worrying Haruka. She tells Goto that Yakumo has identified the attacker, but it's not his father, and informs him that he's become colder, which Goto remembers from their middle school days. He acknowledges that Yakumo has changed a lot since then and credits Haruka for it, before finding out that Miyuki has escaped. And they see Yakumo at the hospital, not to visit Isshin. Instead, he approaches Sakakibara, accusing him of leaving Isshin Brain dead on purpose to force them to go through with Yoshiko's transplant. He reveals that he knows Yoshiko is his daughter and shows them evidence to make sure the transplant proceeds. Sakakibara denies everything, but it becomes clear he's the culprit, so Yakumo corners him on the roof, where he declares that there's nothing wrong with his actions and attacks him, but Yakumo defends himself. Yakumo's father appears, sensing his son's growing hatred, especially towards Isshin's apparent death before Goto and others arrive on the roof. His father says he believes hatred isn't strong enough as Miyuki suddenly appears and shoots at one of them. Goto gets shot in the stomach, and as planned, Yakumo becomes furious, enabling his father to take over his body. Miyuki explains that typically, a ghost cannot possess a body since 2 souls can't inhabit one space at the same time. However, an exception occurs if both souls share the same mental state during possession. Miyuki embraces Yakumo, believing the possession is complete, but he unexpectedly disarms her and fends her off. Yutaru holds her at gunpoint, revealing that Yakumo successfully completed the possession. And his second red eye was actually Ishin's contact lens, and Yakumo, not wanting to continue a cycle of hatred, agrees to the organ transplant on the condition that Sakakibara surrenders himself afterward, which he agrees to before Yakumo drops to his knees. Yakumo's father's scheme is stopped for now, but he notes that as a ghost, he'll exist as long as his desire to possess his body continues before bidding them farewell and vanishing. Realizing she's been manipulated, Miyuki jumps off and escapes, so they chase after her, but she's lost the will to live and drives her car off a road, ending her life. Meanwhile, Goto's organ transplants are successful. Although saddened by his uncle's death, Yakumo says he knows it's what he would have wanted. The next day, they gather for Ishin's funeral, in which Miyuki's body is missing, and Hata remarks that Yakumo's father never committed any crimes himself and only convinced others to follow him before Goto informs Yakumo that he and Itsuko want to formally adopt him and Nao, which he agrees to. During the funeral reception, Yakumo walks away abruptly, with Haruka following him into the main temple, where he has a final conversation with Ishin, assuring him not to worry about him and Nao. He slowly starts crying as he remembers his uncle's last words, thanking him for everything. Later, Goto adjusts to his new family role, taking more time off work. Makoto continues her journalism work, while Hata looks forward to more dissections, and Yakumo and Haruka continue collaborating on supernatural cases, silently thanking his uncle for his guidance. And with that, the story comes to an end. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.